Ladies and gentlemen, today we stand at the edge of a question that challenges everything we think we know about the universe. For centuries, humanity has looked up at the night sky, believing that space follows predictable rules: rocks, ice, dust, gravity. But what happens when an object appears that refuses to behave like any natural visitor we have ever seen? Recent modeling of the interstellar object known as 31 Atlas has raised unsettling possibilities. This is not just another comet drifting silently through space. Its motion, structure, and surrounding environment suggest something far more complex. As data was analyzed and reanalyzed, one detail became impossible to ignore: indications that this object may not be traveling alone. The models reveal anomalies, reflections, motion patterns, and energy interactions that point toward the presence of metallic objects surrounding it. Not randomly scattered debris, but formations that appear structured, clustered, and deliberate. In space, metal is not common in such configurations. Nature does not easily assemble metallic bodies into coordinated arrangements without a powerful reason. What makes this even more alarming is how 31 Atlas moves. Instead of following a purely gravitational path, its trajectory shows subtle deviations, small, calculated changes that suggest influence beyond natural forces. These deviations may be explained by interaction with surrounding objects, possibly metallic in nature, possibly acting as shields, probes, or fragments moving in coordination. This discovery forces us to confront a difficult truth. If these objects are real, then we are not just observing a passive interstellar traveler. We may be witnessing technology, or at the very least remnants of something engineered. That possibility alone reshapes our understanding of life, intelligence, and our place in the cosmos. Some may argue this is speculation, but science does not advance by ignoring uncomfortable data. It advances by questioning it, testing it, and following evidence wherever it leads, even when it leads beyond familiar explanations. When models repeatedly point to the same anomalies, dismissing them becomes more dangerous than exploring them. The warning here is not one of fear, but of awareness. If intelligent technology exists beyond Earth, then the universe is not silent. It is observing, moving, and possibly interacting. And if objects like 31 Atlas carry signs of artificial origin, then humanity must be prepared, not with panic, but with humility and responsibility. We are a young civilization looking outward for the first time, with instruments powerful enough to notice what was once invisible. The universe may be revealing itself not through dramatic contact, but through subtle clues: metal where metal should not be, motion where motion should not exist, and questions that refuse to stay buried. This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one where curiosity must overcome fear, and where truth matters more than comfort. Because if 31 Atlas is indeed surrounded by metal objects, then the universe has just asked us a question. The only real danger now is choosing not to answer it. The object known as 31 Atlas immediately stands apart from anything scientists have previously observed entering our solar system. At first glance, it might appear to be another interstellar visitor, similar to comets or asteroids that have passed through before. However, when its motion was carefully analyzed, patterns emerged that could not be easily explained by known natural processes. Traditional space objects follow predictable paths governed by gravity, solar radiation, and outgassing effects. In the case of 31 Atlas, those expectations began to break down as more data was collected. One of the most striking irregularities lies in its trajectory. Instead of moving along a smooth, gravity-driven path, the object exhibits subtle but measurable deviations. These changes are not random. They occur in ways that suggest controlled influence rather than chaotic behavior. Scientists accounted for solar radiation pressure, gravitational tugs from nearby planets, and typical cometary activity, yet the deviations persisted even after these factors were removed from the models. This alone places 31 Atlas in a category of its own. Another anomaly involves its acceleration. Objects of similar size and composition normally slow down or speed up in expected ways as they pass through the solar system. With 31 Atlas, the acceleration does not align with standard models. It behaves as though additional forces are acting upon it, forces that cannot be traced to ice sublimation or natural jetting commonly seen in comets. This absence of a visible tail or gas cloud further deepens the mystery. Because there is no obvious mechanism to explain the observed motion, light reflection data adds another layer of confusion. The way 31 Atlas reflects sunlight varies in unexpected patterns, suggesting an unusual surface composition or structure. Instead of showing the rough, irregular signatures typical of rocky or icy bodies, the reflections hint at smoother or more reflective materials. This raises questions about whether its surface is naturally formed or shaped by processes not commonly found in space. Even its shape challenges expectations. Models based on brightness fluctuations imply a geometry that does not resemble familiar asteroids or comets. The ratios appear extreme, possibly elongated or flattened in ways that are statistically rare in natural objects. When combined with its motion anomalies, the shape becomes more than a curiosity, it becomes a critical piece of the puzzle. Taken together, these inconsistencies form a pattern that cannot be ignored. Each anomaly on its own might be dismissed as a measurement error or an outlier. But when trajectory deviations, unexplained acceleration, unusual reflectivity, and rare geometry all point in the same direction, the probability of coincidence drops sharply. This is why 31 Atlas demands attention. It challenges the boundaries of current understanding and forces scientists to confront the possibility that not everything passing through our solar system fits neatly into existing categories. As researchers continued to analyze the data surrounding 31 Atlas, attention shifted from the object itself to what appeared to be happening around it. Advanced modeling and signal interpretation began to reveal indications that 31 Atlas might not be traveling alone. Subtle interactions detected in the surrounding space suggested the presence of nearby objects, distinct from the main body, whose behavior could not be easily explained by natural debris or random fragments. What made these surrounding objects especially unusual was the evidence pointing toward metallic composition. In space, metal-rich bodies do exist, but they are rare and typically form through violent collisions or planetary core remnants. Even in such cases, metallic fragments tend to disperse unpredictably. In contrast, the signals associated with 31 Atlas implied consistency, stable proximity, repeated alignment, and behavior that appeared coordinated rather than chaotic. This consistency immediately raised scientific concern. Light reflection patterns played a key role in shaping this interpretation. The way sunlight scattered in the vicinity of 31 Atlas showed sharp, intense reflections that are more commonly associated with metallic surfaces than with ice or rock. These reflections did not fluctuate randomly, but followed patterns that suggested fixed orientations or repeating structures. If confirmed, this would mean that the surrounding objects possess surfaces capable of reflecting light with high efficiency, something rarely seen in naturally formed interstellar debris. Motion analysis added another layer of complexity. Instead of drifting independently, these nearby objects appeared to move in relation to the main body of 31 Atlas. Their relative positions remained remarkably stable over time, despite gravitational forces that would normally cause dispersion. Such stability implies either a shared origin with finely balanced dynamics or an active mechanism maintaining their formation. In natural systems, this level of coordination is extremely uncommon, especially for objects entering from interstellar space. The possibility that these metallic objects could serve a functional role cannot be ignored. Some models suggest they may act as shields, deflectors, or structural components interacting with radiation or micrometeoroids. Others propose they could be remnants, pieces broken off from a larger structure that remain loosely connected. Regardless of their exact nature, the idea that they are merely coincidental fragments becomes harder to defend as more data is examined. Skeptics argue that data noise, sensor limitations, or misinterpretation could be responsible for these observations. Such caution is valid and necessary in science. However, repeated observations across different instruments and modeling approaches continue to point toward the same conclusion. The environment around 31 Atlas is not empty, and what occupies it does not behave like ordinary space matter. This leads to a profound implication. If metallic objects truly surround 31 Atlas in a structured manner, then humanity may be observing something fundamentally different from a natural interstellar visitor. Whether the explanation lies in unknown astrophysical processes or in something far more extraordinary, the evidence forces science to expand its questions rather than retreat from them. One of the most troubling aspects of 31 Atlas lies in how it moves through space. In classical astronomy, motion is predictable. Objects entering the solar system follow paths shaped by gravity, radiation pressure from the sun, and in the case of comets, the release of gas and dust as ice heats up. These forces have been studied for centuries and are well understood. Yet when the trajectory of 31 Atlas was modeled using these same principles, the results did not align with observation. Instead of following a smooth gravitational arc, 31 Atlas displays small but persistent deviations. These changes in velocity and direction are subtle, yet they are consistent over time. What makes this especially significant is that the deviations remain even after all known natural forces are accounted for. Solar radiation pressure alone cannot explain them, nor can gravitational perturbations from nearby planets. The object behaves as though something is gently steering it, adjusting its motion in ways that appear measured rather than accidental. In typical comets, non-gravitational motion is caused by outgassing. Jets of vapor released as ice sublimates under solar heat. This process produces visible tails and irregular acceleration. However, 31 Atlas shows no clear evidence of such activity. There is no substantial gas cloud, no dust plume, and no dramatic tail that would indicate strong outgassing. Without this mechanism, the source of its acceleration becomes deeply puzzling. Even more concerning is the directional nature of the motion changes. Random natural forces tend to produce erratic behavior, yet the deviations observed in 31 Atlas appear smooth and repeatable. This suggests influence from an external factor that operates with consistency. Some models indicate that nearby objects, possibly the same metallic bodies detected in its vicinity, could be interacting with it, either through gravitational coupling or some form of momentum exchange. If true, this would imply a coordinated system rather than an isolated object. The timing of the motion shifts also raises questions. Certain changes occur at moments that do not correspond to solar proximity or expected gravitational thresholds. This lack of correlation undermines traditional explanations and strengthens the argument that unknown forces may be involved. In astrophysics, when motion cannot be explained, it often leads to the discovery of new phenomena. But in this case, the nature of the deviations challenges not just existing models, but the assumption that all interstellar visitors are passive. This does not automatically mean the object is artificial, but it does force science into uncomfortable territory. Either there exists a natural mechanism not yet discovered that can produce controlled sustained motion without visible mass loss, or 31 Atlas is influenced by structures or processes that do not fit current definitions of natural space objects. Both possibilities carry enormous implications. What makes this situation critical is repetition. These deviations are not one-time anomalies. They appear again and again across independent datasets and modeling approaches. In science, repetition transforms curiosity into concern. When motion refuses to obey known laws, it becomes a signal not to panic, but to investigate with seriousness and intellectual honesty. When the evidence surrounding 31 Atlas is viewed as a whole, the conversation inevitably shifts toward a possibility that science rarely addresses openly: artificial or technological origin. This conclusion is not drawn from a single strange detail, but from the convergence of multiple anomalies that reinforce one another: unusual motion, unexplained acceleration, metallic signatures coordinated surrounding objects, and rare geometric properties together form a pattern that resists conventional interpretation. In nature, complexity usually arises from chaos. Asteroids fracture irregularly, comets shed material unpredictably, and debris fields disperse under gravitational stress. What makes 31 Atlas different is the apparent order within its irregularities. The presence of metallic objects in stable proximity, combined with controlled motion changes, suggests a level of organization that natural processes struggle to replicate. When structure appears where randomness is expected, science must at least consider intentional design as one of several hypotheses. Technology, by definition, leaves signatures. Smooth surfaces, reflective materials, and controlled movement are hallmarks of engineered systems. While these traits do not confirm artificial origin on their own, their coexistence in a single interstellar object significantly raises the probability. Especially compelling is the absence of typical natural explanations. There is no visible propulsion plume, no explosive fragmentation, and no chemical behavior consistent with known materials, yet the object behaves as though it is responding to its environment. Another factor that fuels this discussion is efficiency. Natural objects waste energy. They tumble, shed mass, and respond passively to forces. The behavior of 31 Atlas, however, appears efficient: minimal mass loss, stable configuration, and precise adjustments. In engineering, efficiency is often the result of optimization. In nature, it is rare without evolutionary pressure or intentional construction. The idea that this could be a remnant of technology rather than an active device is also worth considering. It may not be a functioning craft, but debris, a probe shell, or a fragment of a larger structure that has survived interstellar travel. Even non-operational technology would still retain characteristics that distinguish it from naturally formed matter. Over vast timescales, such objects could drift silently through the galaxy, only revealing themselves when passing close enough to be observed. Skepticism remains essential. Science must exhaust all natural explanations before embracing extraordinary conclusions. Unknown astrophysical phenomena could still account for these observations. However, dismissing the technological possibility outright would be unscientific. History shows that many groundbreaking discoveries began as uncomfortable ideas that challenged established belief systems. If artificial origin is even remotely plausible, the implications are profound. It would mean intelligence is not confined to Earth, and that technological artifacts can traverse interstellar distances. It would suggest the universe may contain evidence of other civilizations not through communication, but through physical remnants. Ultimately, this possibility does not weaken science, it strengthens it. It demands better instruments, more rigorous models, and greater intellectual courage. Whether 31 Atlas proves to be natural, technological, or something entirely unknown, its existence pushes humanity to expand its understanding of what is possible beyond the boundaries of familiar cosmic rules. The message surrounding 31 Atlas is often misunderstood as a warning meant to provoke fear, but in reality it is a call for awareness and responsibility. Throughout history, humanity has faced moments when new discoveries disrupted comfort and certainty. Each time, fear emerged not because the discovery itself was dangerous, but because it challenged existing beliefs. The situation with 31 Atlas follows this same pattern. The concern is not about immediate threat, but about how humanity chooses to respond to evidence that does not fit familiar explanations. Science advances by confronting anomalies, not by ignoring them. When repeated observations reveal patterns that defy known laws, the greatest risk lies in dismissal rather than investigation. Treating unexplained data as inconvenient slows progress and blinds society to potential breakthroughs. The warning here is directed at complacency, the tendency to assume that the universe must behave according to what is already known. History shows that such assumptions are often temporary. This moment calls for intellectual humility. Humans are still a young species in cosmic terms, with limited experience beyond their own planet. Assuming that Earth represents the peak of intelligence or technology is not supported by probability or logic. Recognizing this does not diminish humanity's value. Instead, it places civilization within a broader, more honest cosmic context. Awareness allows preparation, not panic. Preparation means investing in better observation tools, open data sharing, and interdisciplinary research. It means creating scientific awareness without stigma, so researchers can explore unconventional explanations without risking credibility. Fear thrives in secrecy and speculation, but transparency transforms uncertainty into understanding. If phenomena like 31 Atlas are studied openly, society gains clarity instead of anxiety. Another key aspect of the warning is ethical readiness. If evidence one day confirms that intelligent technology exists beyond Earth, humanity must decide how to interpret that knowledge responsibly. Rushing to conclusions, spreading misinformation, or framing discoveries as threats could destabilize societies more than the discovery itself. Calm, evidence-based communication becomes essential in such moments. This warning is also a reminder that the universe does not owe humanity familiarity. Reality is not obligated to align with human expectations. When science encounters something that feels unsettling, it is often because understanding is expanding, The discomfort signals growth. Ignoring it would mean choosing ignorance over progress. Importantly, awareness does not mean assuming intent. Unexplained objects are not automatically hostile, purposeful, or even active. Many discoveries in space initially seemed threatening until further study revealed natural origins. The lesson is not to jump to conclusions, but to remain open while grounded in evidence. Ultimately, the true warning is simple: curiosity must outweigh fear. Progress depends on the courage to ask difficult questions and the discipline to pursue truthful answers. Whether 31 Atlas turns out to be natural, artificial, or something entirely new, the way humanity responds will reflect its maturity as a scientific civilization. The danger is not what exists in space, but how humanity reacts when confronted with the unknown.